Welcome to the deep dive. You know, we love to go deep and really get to the bottom of things.
Oh, yeah.
And today is no exception.
Absolutely not.
We are talking all about a Philip Randolph,
One of the greats.
a name that I think a lot of folks have heard.
Right.
But his story deserves so much more than just like a little footnote.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And I know you requested this deep dive because you're really interested in getting a full picture of the depth and the breadth of his impact.
The whole story.
The whole story. And trust me, it's pretty remarkable.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Philip Randolph, we all remember him for the March on Washington.
Right.
But it goes so far beyond
Right.
that he was working for decades, really ahead of his time,
Yeah.
to connect the fight for labor rights with the struggle for racial equality.
It's amazing how he saw those two things as so intertwined, right? Like you can't have one without the other.
Absolutely.
And, just thinking of the sheer amount of material we have,
Yeah.
articles, biographical snippets, historical records. It's mind-blowing just how much there is to go through.
Yeah, if we really want to grasp his impact, we got to go back to the very beginning.
Okay.
So picture this. 1889, the heart of the Jim Crow South.
Oh, wow.
Philip Randolph is born in Crescent City, Florida, and right from the start, he's facing segregation and prejudice.
I mean, it's hard to even imagine, like, the resilience that it must have taken to not just survive, but to thrive in an environment like that. I mean, his parents played such a huge role in shaping his worldview, right?
Absolutely.
Especially his mother, who was a teacher.
Yes, she instilled in him a really powerful sense of self-respect and pride.
Right.
Just this bedrock, that would really allow him to confront racism head on.
Wow.
And then there's his move to Harlem during the Harlem Renaissance.
Oh, my God.
Talk about a turning point.
I mean, picture yourself in the heart of Harlem during the Renaissance.
Right.
It wasn't just a movement. It was an explosion of creativity,
Yeah.
challenging the very fabric of American society.
Absolutely.
And this is where Randolph really encountered the works of W.E.B. Du Bois, and it really solidified his understanding of the systemic inequalities that were facing Black Americans.
Right. And but amidst all this, he remained focused on economic empowerment.
Mm.
He knew that to uplift a community,
Yeah.
you needed to address the economic realities that they were facing.
That's so fascinating because he didn't see racial justice and economic justice as separate entities.
Right.
They were two sides of the same coin for him.
Absolutely.
And this leads us to one of the most pivotal chapters in his story, the Brotherhood of Sleeping Car Porters.
Yes. In 1925, he takes this bold step and forms the first Black labor union in the U.S.
Wow.
At the time, the Pullman Company was a major employer of Black workers,
Okay.
but the conditions were atrocious. Long hours, low wages, terrible living conditions.
Purple.
To add insult to injury, they were barred from joining existing unions.
So Randolph steps in to fill that void,
He does.
challenging this powerful corporation
Yeah.
that held the livelihoods of so many Black workers in its hands.
Absolutely a real David and Goliath situation.
Yeah, talk about David versus Goliath.
But he also faced opposition not just from the corporation,
Oh, really?
but also from some Black leaders who were afraid of rocking the boat.
Wow.
Imagine the pressure
Yeah.
coming at you from both sides.
But true to his character, he persevered.
He did.
It took over a decade of
Right.
struggle, boycotts, strikes, legal battles.
Yep.
But in 1937, the Pullman Company finally recognized the BSCP.
They did. And you see, this wasn't just a win for the porters.
Okay.
This shattered the perception that Black workers couldn't effectively organize.
Right.
This victory sent ripples through the entire labor movement,
Mm.
proving that solidarity and strategic action could topple even the most powerful corporations.
It's a testament to his strategic brilliance, right?
Really.
His understanding that a well-organized, unified force can bring about real change.
Yes.
But the BSCP victory was just one chapter
Right.
in his lifelong fight. And, as World War II loomed on the horizon, he shifted his focus to another glaring injustice: segregation in the armed forces.
Oh, yeah. Imagine the irony.
Yeah,
Black Americans are expected to fight for a country
right, yeah.
that denied them basic freedoms and dignity.
Wow.
The U.S. military at that time was a microcosm of the nation's racism.
Okay.
Black soldiers relegated to menial tasks and denied opportunities.
So Randolph saw this as a direct assault
Yes.
on the patriotism and the dignity of Black Americans.
Absolutely.
So what does he do? He decides to play hardball.
He does.
In 1941, he issues this bold threat. organize a massive march on Washington, D.C.
Wow.
to demand desegregation in the military and defense industries.
Huge.
Imagine the audacity.
Right.
Threatening the government with a demonstration of 100,000 Black Americans right as they're gearing up for war.
That's a power play.
It was a power play that really forced President Roosevelt's hand.
Right.
Because he was faced with this potential for massive social unrest.
Yeah.
And pressure from his own advisors. So Roosevelt signs Executive Order 8802, prohibiting discrimination in defense industries.
Now, it's important to note that this was a partial victory.
Okay.
True equality in the military was still a long way off.
Right.
But the point is that Randolph's strategic use of nonviolent protest, this threat of a massive march, yielded tangible results.
Right. And think about it. He consistently chose the path of nonviolent resistance.
Yeah.
And not because it was easy,
Right.
because it was strategic, boycotts marches,
Yep.
even the threat of a massive demonstration. These actions put pressure on the system without resorting to violence.
Yep.
And they forced those in power to confront the moral weight of their actions.
And it's important to remember, the 1941 March on Washington isn't the one that we typically associate with Philip Randolph.
Oh, right.
That comes later in his story.
Right.
And it might just be his crowning achievement.
Oh, you mean the 1963 March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom? The one where Martin Luther King Jr. delivered his iconic I Have a Dream speech?
That's the one.
That one.
And we'll dive into that in just a bit. So as we kind of dig deeper into Philip Randolph's story, it's like his strategic brilliance went way beyond individual events.
Right.
Like that 63 March on Washington.
Right.
Pivotal moment. But it was really a combination of his vision, you know, his understanding of the power of collective action.
It's interesting how that march is so ingrained in our collective memory.
Right.
And it's almost always like we picture Dr. King's I Have a Dream speech taking center stage.
Yeah.
But to really appreciate the event, you have to understand Randolph's role as like the architect.
The driving force behind it.
The driving force, yeah.
Exactly. He envisioned a march that wouldn't just focus on civil rights, but one that would connect racial equality with economic justice. He knew that a living wage fair employment practices access to opportunities.
Right.
These were just as crucial as dismantling segregation.
And to achieve that vision, I mean, he needed to bring together a diverse coalition of groups with their own agendas and priorities.
Absolutely. This is where his mastery of coalition building really comes into play.
It's true.
He wasn't afraid of disagreements even within the movement itself.
Oh, wow.
He understood that true progress required collaboration, even with those who held different viewpoints.
And that takes a lot of strength, I think.
It does.
Like the ability to kind of put aside your ego and really focus on the bigger picture.
Absolutely. And, you know, a great example of this is his partnership with Bayard Rustin.
Oh, yeah.
A brilliant strategist, but often ostracized because of his sexuality.
Right.
And Randolph recognized his talent and brought him into the fold, you know, trusted him with his key leadership role in the march.
It speaks volumes about his commitment to inclusivity.
It does.
And being able to see beyond those societal prejudices.
Yeah, to harness the power of individual talent.
It's a powerful reminder that progress often requires challenging the status quo.
Right.
Even within our own circles sometimes.
Absolutely. And then there's his relationship with Dr. King.
Right.
It wasn't just a partnership.
Yeah.
It was a mentorship. It was passing of the torch.
Yeah.
You know,
right.
Randolph, with his decades of experience in strategic thinking, he guided Dr. King in the early days of the civil rights movement, helping him navigate, you know, all the complexities of organizing and advocating for change.
I mean, imagine the impact of these two towering figures working together.
Yeah.
Randolph's experience in strategic thinking combined with Dr. King's charisma and powerful oratory.
It's no wonder that the 1963 March on Washington had such a profound impact on the nation's conscience.
It's a testament to Randolph's unwavering commitment to nonviolent resistance.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
He believed in the power of moral persuasion, you know, using peaceful tactics to expose injustice and force those in power to confront their actions.
I mean, think about it throughout his life, whether it was the struggle for the BSCP or the fight for desegregation.
Yeah. He consistently chose the path of nonviolent resistance.
He did, and that's a lesson that resonates so deeply today.
It does.
Especially as we see a resurgence of social justice movements around the world.
Absolutely.
You look at the fight for $15.
Right.
You look at the Black Lives Matter movement.
Yeah.
The echoes of Randolph's legacy.
They're undeniable.
They're undeniable. Take the fight for $15, for example.
Yeah.
It's a movement rooted in this belief
Okay.
that every worker deserves a living wage,
Right.
that economic justice is a fundamental human right.
Right.
It's a direct extension of Randolph's vision.
I see that.
You can't have racial equality without economic equality.
Right.
And then there's the Black Lives Matter movement,
Yeah.
addressing the intersection of racial and economic injustice so powerfully.
Right.
It's a continuation of the work that Randolph started,
Yeah.
highlighting the systemic barriers
Yeah.
that continue to hold back communities of color.
It's incredible how his ideas, his vision for a better future,
Continue to resonate so powerfully
they do.
in the 21st century.
They do. But his legacy isn't just about those grand movements and historical events.
Okay.
It's also about the individual choices that we make, the actions we take in our everyday lives to challenge injustice and promote equality.
So as we move towards the final part of our deep dive,
Yeah.
let's shift our focus to the more personal aspects
Okay.
of Randolph's legacy. So we've really gone deep into the life of A. Philip Randolph.
Yes, have.
I mean, talk about an extraordinary legacy.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, his strategic brilliance, his unwavering commitment to nonviolent resistance, his incredible ability to build coalitions and bring together these diverse voices under a common cause.
Yeah, he was a master at that.
He really was.
Bringing people together.
But his legacy is more than just those big events and those movements.
Right. It's also about those individual choices that we make.
Right.
You know, the actions that we take every day
Yeah.
to challenge injustice and promote equality.
So let's shift our focus a little bit here.
Okay.
We've seen how A. Philip Randolph impacted history on this grand scale.
Right.
But how can we bring his legacy into our own lives?
Yeah, that's the question, isn't it?
It is. How can his story inspire us to be better, to do better in our own communities and in the world?
Well, one of the most powerful takeaways for me from Randolph's life is the importance of courage and perseverance. You think about the obstacles that he faced. I mean, the deeply ingrained racism of the Jim Crow South.
Right.
The resistance from those powerful corporations.
Right.
Even skepticism from some within his own community.
He could have just given up, right?
He could have.
Just accepted things as they were.
Right.
But he didn't. He chose to fight.
He did.
To push for a better future, even when the odds were stacked against him.
Absolutely. And that's such a powerful lesson for all of us.
It is.
You know, we all face challenges.
We do.
Times when we're tempted to give up on our dreams or goals.
Yeah.
Our vision for a better world.
It's easy to get discouraged.
It is. But Randolph's story reminds us that change is possible.
It is.
Even when you're facing these seemingly impossible obstacles.
It's about having that courage to speak up.
Yes.
To challenge injustice even when it's uncomfortable.
Even when it feels like you're standing alone.
Yeah, exactly. And it's about having that perseverance to keep going.
Right.
Even when progress is slow. Even when there are setbacks.
Absolutely. I mean, remember, it took Randolph over a decade to win recognition for the Brotherhood of Sleeping Car Porters.
Over a decade.
Can you imagine the dedication?
Wow.
The unwavering commitment to keep that fight going for so long.
It's truly inspiring.
It is. He never lost sight of his vision.
His belief that a better world was possible.
Right. And that brings us to another crucial aspect of his legacy.
Okay.
The importance of mentorship and passing the torch. You know,
Right.
think about his relationship with Dr. King.
Yeah.
Randolph, with all his decades of experience.
Right.
He didn't just offer advice.
Right.
He actively mentored Dr. King.
Yeah.
Guided him in those early days of the civil rights movement.
He saw the potential in Dr. King.
He did.
The power of his message. And he invested his time and energy
Absolutely.
in nurturing that potential.
And that's something that we can all do.
We
Regardless of our age or our experience, we can all be mentors.
Right.
Sharing our knowledge, our skills, our insights with those who are coming up behind us.
Right. We can all play a role in shaping the next generation.
Absolutely.
Of leaders, activists, change makers.
Right. And on the flip side, we can all be open to learning from those who have come before us.
Right.
Seek out mentors, read their stories, study their strategies, draw inspiration from their struggles and their triumphs.
The fight for justice is like a relay race, right?
It is.
We each carry the torch for a while and pass it on to the next generation.
That's right. Building on the progress made by those who came before us.
And that's what A. Philip Randolph did so brilliantly.
He took that torch that was passed to him by those earlier generations of activists and carried it forward, lighting the way for all those who would follow.
And now it's our turn.
It is.
We each have a role to play in carrying that torch and continuing the fight for a more just and equitable world.
Absolutely. So as we wrap up this deep dive into the remarkable legacy of A. Philip Randolph, we want to leave you with a final thought.
A question to ponder.
Yes, a question to ponder. What will you do to honor his legacy?
How will you use your voice, your actions, your unique talents to make a difference in your community and your world?
Will you mentor someone?
Yeah, will you stand up for what's right even when it's hard?
Will you fight for economic justice?
Will you fight for racial equality?
For the rights of all people to live with dignity and opportunity?
These are the questions that A. Philip Randolph's life compels us to ask.
They are.
And the answers, they lie within each and every one of us.
Thank you for joining us on this journey of discovery.
Keep exploring, keep questioning.
And keep pushing.
Keep pushing for a world
that reflects those values of equality and justice.
Yes.
That A. Philip Randolph so valiantly championed.